Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Megan Lee.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our highlights show, bringing you the best picks of the week. Here's a look at what we've got in store. Little helpers. Social robots are finding their way into our lives. Seaside resort. Brighton has a lot on offer, even in the wintertime. And cherished tradition. A Swiss carpenter rebuilds the original Davos sleds. Science and technology are changing the way we interact with one another, and soon it's predicted that we'll all have our own robots. At least that's the hope of one French company, which is developing a socially capable robot to help with important jobs around the house. So let's have a look at what the future may hold.
It looks like a cartoon character, and that's what makes this robot so appealing.
Hello, my name is Buddy.
It's still a prototype, but 1,000 buddies have already been ordered. They should find their way to their new owners by the end of the year.
When we developed Buddy, we have two things in mind. The first one was to have a really accessible robot, as we said. And the second one was to create a robot able to generate emotion or empathy with people. We think it's the key to put robots in every home.
Buddy is sold as a new family member.
Wake up, my friend. Don't forget, it's Mom's birthday today.
It can play with children, help seniors in their daily lives, and sound the alarm if they need help. Buddy can move around on its own. It can even tell stories, though the intonation's not the greatest.
Once upon a time there lived a good king and his queen. They had no children for many years and were very sad. Show me your medicine.
Buddy can take and store pictures with its built-in camera and recall this data later.
I don't recognize this medicine. Do you want me to save it?
Buddy's interaction with people is still quite primitive. It simply follows orders. But the robots of the future should be able to do much more. Researcher Laurence De Villers and her team are developing software for the Now robot to enable it to recognize emotions and react to them.
Let's try a little simulation so you can see how I react. Here we go. You haven't drunk anything in a long while. Drink some water, please.
No, I don't want to. I just drank something. No way.
You need to drink a bit.
No, now. I don't want to drink or listen to a robot.
I'd drink it for you, but I might rust and start squeaking more than I already do. The robot can change its strategy. For example, if the person doesn't like the sense of humor, it changes the jokes or doesn't make them anymore. We imagine these assistant robots being mainly of use to older people, but there are interesting results with autistic children too, because sometimes they find it easier to talk to machines than to people.
The problem with a robot like Buddy is that it could be hacked, like any smart device, and it knows a lot about its owner. Everything from the layout of the apartment to the schedule. Very useful for burglars, for example.
All computers can be hacked. But there's another important aspect. Robots are capable of learning, and they learn how to behave from the person that uses them. So it's important for us to be able to control what kind of knowledge the robot has gleaned and stored.
Users can also help to make Buddy better by programming their own apps for the robot. Buddy costs just under €650, less than the latest model iPhone. But whether it's more of a play toy than a useful assistant remains to be seen.
Time now to take a trip to the coastal English town of Brighton, located about 85 kilometers south of London. Now, this is where most Londoners head out on the weekends to get out of the hustle and bustle of the city in exchange for some fresh sea air. Well, over the years, Brighton has been the chosen playground for celebrities, including ex-Beatle Paul McCartney, the actress Kate Blanchett, and most recently, the singer Adele. So we headed there to see how it can cure the winter blues.
In the early morning hours, Brighton is a tranquil place, even near the city's normally busy pleasure pier. Local residents like painter Jeremy Sanders enjoy the winter months when Brighton has time to relax. The majority of tourists, some 8 million a year, come during the summer.
I would recommend winter. You can't always guarantee the weather, but then you can't guarantee it in summer in England. But I would definitely say winter because it's that much more, you can get around a lot quicker, less queuing. And again, it can be quite warm down here some days. If you get a sheltered spot on the beach, it can be glorious.
Brighton is often referred to as London by the Sea. The city, with its 250,000 residents, offers a wide range of culinary venues like Silo, a coffee house and restaurant said to be the very first in Britain to produce no garbage at all. It's one of Jeremy Sanders' favorites. Brighton is also known for its small, one-of-a-kind shops. Hundreds of them can be found in the North Lane and the Lanes areas. Choki Woki Duda is a chocolate maker for eccentric tastes. It specializes in hand-carved chocolate sculptures. They can cost up to 5,000 euros.
Welcome to our cake garden. Brighton's really special because there's so many independent stores in Brighton, and because all the premises are quite small, and it's really good for individuality to come out and really sort of shine. And I think because it's got a bohemian spirit to it, and because it has got a party town to it as well, there's a lot of debauchery, and there's a fantasy to Brighton.
The Royal Pavilion is one of Brighton's most imposing landmarks. In the early 19th century, King George IV had the royal seaside residence rebuilt in the form of an oriental palace. The architecture and Chinese-style interiors bear witness to the king's rather excessive lifestyle.
This palace in particular is the best expression of how he was and who he was. He was a king who lived life to the extreme. He spent a lot of money and passion on women, the arts, wining and dining, on collecting furniture, buying jewellery, and building amazing palaces or extending them.
Brighton has long been a magnet for musicians and artists. Many tourists come just to see the graffiti by street artists such as Banksy. His motif of the kissing coppers has achieved world fame. Jeremy Sanders has his own gallery. One of his favorite motifs is Brighton itself. Visitors are welcome to watch over his shoulder as he works.
It's the colours in Brighton. All along the seafront, you've got every different colour with all the carousels. You get lovely light as well here along the coast. It's very much different from inland. You get the reflections off the sea. It's inspiring, the colour, and it changes. Even on a grey day, you can get colour, lovely greys, lovely purples and everything. And the sunsets in the evening can be spectacular.
It's just a short walk from his gallery in an old fisherman's house to the 64 Degrees restaurant. After London, Brighton has the highest concentration of restaurants anywhere in Britain. 64 Degrees was voted Brighton's best restaurant in 2015. The chef serves the food and explains the dishes in person.
It's just all about really staying local as well and staying true. The food can only be as good as the supplies and suppliers that we get, and at the moment the fish is stunning. We're using local farms, and this is the case for most of the restaurants in town. We're blessed that we're by the sea, but also we have the South Downs where a lot of fantastic meat is reared.
For Jeremy Sanders, the day ends the way it began, with a stroll along the beach.
what's nice about it in the winter. You see some great storms. It's an attraction at the weekend for people to come down here because they see the murmurations of the starlings, but they also come down to see the incredible sunsets as well.
Brighton in winter, when nature itself offers the finest spectacle for a seaside stroll.
And now from an English town with a long tradition to a German one. Leipzig, located 190 kilometers south of Berlin. It's a city rich in history and has always been a hub for classical music. Great composers like Johann Sebastian Bach and Felix Mendelssohn both lived, worked, and died here. Well, in the years since German reunification, though, Leipzig has suffered economically, but now the city is seeing more and more young entrepreneurs drawn to it.
Leipzig is one of the fastest growing cities in Germany. Though not a large city, the population grew by more than 15,000 last year alone. Leipzig is young and dynamic. But what's really driving the boom is an upswing of industry and business.
Many compare Leipzig to Berlin 15 years ago because so much is happening. As a young person, you like to help shape the city, and you can do that here.
I think the cliche thing to say is that it feels like there's a lot of freedom, but it does. I mean,
Urban sociologist Dieter Rink has studied the dramatic changes that Leipzig has undergone in recent decades. In former communist East Germany, it was a showcase city. But after German reunification, local industry collapsed, prompting nearly 100,000 people to leave.
For the most part, the city's development was driven by crisis, but with the new millennium came hope. Life returned to the city, and in recent years there's been a sense of euphoria, with great hopes and expectations for the future. Instead of 600,000, Leipzig's population is expected to grow to 700,000 or more.
Leipzig has managed to attract major companies like Porsche, BMW, and logistics company DHL. That has led to steady economic growth in recent years, which has in turn attracted more people and, crucially, more investors. Some have joined an initiative called SpinLab, designed to lend a helping hand to young entrepreneurs that show potential.
SpinLab is a support program for startup companies. It lasts for 6 months. So after passing through our selection process and holding their own against the competition, startups get a free 6-month mentoring program.
Eric Weber and his team help the new companies link up with investors, meaning they can usually access money much more quickly. It's initiatives like this one that make Leipzig a real alternative to the German capital, Berlin.
The aim is to keep the most promising business initiatives here in Leipzig and the region, to offer them something so that they don't move to other cities, and even to draw new companies from other cities, or even other countries in the long run.
One man who's made it to the top already is Peter Maria Schnur with his gourmet restaurant Falco. He has 2 Michelin stars, and gourmet guide Gomio has named him Germany's Chef of the Year. When he came to Leipzig 11 years ago, his experimental and lively cuisine was an immediate hit.
People here just like us. They're proud of this restaurant, and a lively, exuberant city like Leipzig with its active arts scene is clearly much nicer than being in a more conservative place.
Alternative communities mushroomed in Leipzig after German reunification. Many moved into derelict houses and factories. Bertram Schulze was one of them. He came to Leipzig as an architect in 1994. Joining forces with other artists, he transformed an old textile factory into a lively center for art and culture.
There was this tension about being in a factory that was virtually empty, but where the working rhythm was still very much evident. There was the horn that sounded at break time, where the workers came in and out. I think that influenced many who were pioneers here. There are possibilities here for everyone, and that's something that I don't sense in other cities.
Today, the Spinnerei, or spinning mill, is a flagship cultural center in Leipzig. Its alternative flair draws artists from all over the world. The old factory building offers space for living and working.
Leipzig is quite famous for painters. And yeah, you feel it in the whole atmosphere here.
It's like a little artist's village, and it's really inspiring to be surrounded by so many people who take their work seriously.
For me, it's like 6 months of an escape from the busyness of New York City to focus on painting and have a lot of space to do so.
Cultural diversity, a thriving economy, and a growing population. Leipzig is booming in every way.
Winter is a great time to hit the slopes, either on skis or with a sled. And one of the best sleds that money can buy is a wooden one made by hand in the Swiss Alps. The Davos sled, as it's called, once saw a massive decline in production due to cheaper versions on the market. But now it's enjoying something of a comeback.
The town of Davos lies 1,600 meters above sea level. It has a long-standing tradition of winter sports and is the birthplace of the Davos sled. The classic model, made of wood and iron, is the most widely used sled in the world. Most are just cheap copies, but the original is now once again on sale in Davos.
We know it from the past. We got a bobsled for the little one because it's easier to use. But Jorien was keen to try the Davos sled.
It's like a snow Harley-Davidson. It's comfortable, yet fast.
The first Davos sled, based on lighter models from Norway, was built here some 150 years ago. After the patents ran out, hundreds of thousands of cheap copies were produced abroad. The carpenters in Davos couldn't compete with their prices and ceased production in the 1960s.
Davos sleds were even made in communist East Germany. There were only 1 or 2 factories in Switzerland that still produced the Davos sleds on an industrial scale. But obviously in a very basic form and at a low consumer price. So it wasn't the real Davos sled. Anyway, a real Davos sled has to come from Davos.
Paul Arduza runs a carpentry business in Davos. It's a family firm in its 3rd generation. Last year, he was commissioned by the Tourism Association to build a sled for an advertising campaign. That's when he decided it was time to bring this traditional craft back home. With the help of an online crowdfunding campaign, he decided to offer an alternative to the inferior quality mass-produced sled. To make it worth buying all the materials, he wanted to sell 20 sleds in advance online.
I set myself a goal of selling 20 sleds in 100 days, and thought if I manage that, I can be more than satisfied. After 100 days, we'd sold 65, and now we're up to over 110. We've actually been a bit overwhelmed by the whole thing.
All his materials come from Switzerland, including the solid ash wood. There are 1,000 individual steps involved in making the sleds, and 7 hours of labor. The 5 wooden slats that form the seat are a trademark characteristic of the Davos sled.
Another feature is this reinforcement strip, which was added by the sled's designer to stabilize and reinforce the entire sled.
The Winter Sport Museum in Davos gives an insight into the long-standing tradition of this local craft. The sleds were originally designed for transporting loads, as the blades glide easily across the snow. It was foreign tourists who began using the sleds for fun and sport. In 1883, Davos hosted the first official sled race.
The people of Davos are, of course, very proud that the Davos sled is used all over the world and that this local craft and custom is being revived here again.
Paul Aduza's sleds are put together with screws and bolts, as in the past. No cheap glue here. The sleds are available in 2 sizes and can also be personalized for the customer. Prices start at €600 apiece. But the original Davos sled comes with a lifelong guarantee.
The Davos sled is meant to be like a clock that gets passed on from one generation to the next. So you buy a sled for your grandchild, who uses it and then later passes it on to his children. That's the tradition we want to revive. I'd be happy for it to be an heirloom, a piece of living history in the family.
For the first time in more than 5 decades, the original Davos sled is once again hitting the slopes in the mountains around Davos.
And finally, we want to round off the show with a trip to the Estonian capital, Tallinn, which is known for its experimental architecture. So we wanted to take a look around at a modern structure that is also a good example of architectural trends in the country.
A new housing development on the outskirts of the Estonian capital, Tallinn.
Oh, hello. Please come in. Let me show our house.
It's certainly intriguing. With its geometric form, the house looks a bit like a sculpture. Dominating the entrance is an oak tree that's over 50 years old.
When we first saw this oak tree, then we decided to take this piece of land, and later the architect had to put the house around the tree because the tree was standing in the middle of the building area.
The owner is a building contractor. He's lived here with his wife Maris and their children since 2003. The angular aesthetic continues in the spacious, open-plan combined kitchen and living room. 50 square meters in size, it covers almost the entire ground floor.
I want to have a kitchen and living room in the one, so I don't need to be alone in the kitchen. We can all be together with the family.
It took a year to build this unusually shaped house. A few structural innovations were required to make it look the way it does. A skeleton made of 2 7-meter-long steel girders provides stability. The ceilings are exceptionally high. The bedrooms are all on the first floor. The children's rooms are at the end of the hallway. They're next to the family bathroom. And then comes the parents' bedroom. The furniture was customized to fit into the sloping wall so that no space is wasted.
This wardrobe is special made and it's very deep inside. So we can walk in and take our clothes.
Altogether, the house comprises 170 square meters of living space.
I like the house more and more. In the beginning it was difficult to get used, but now I love to live here.
I like in the morning. Then the sun is not shining into my eye.
And after nightfall, when the house is lit up, it's easy to see why this is definitely a cozy family home.
And with that, we come to the end of another week of Euromaxx. It was a pleasure to have you along, and we will see you again real soon.